Hello and welcome to the Pole Position podcast on Let's Talk Sports YouTube channel with myself, Jamie Davies and Jack Price. F1 is returning this week. I am dead excited for the 2018 season. Of course, this is months after Lewis Hamilton won his 4th World Championship to level with Vettel and to become the most successful British driver in F1 history. Jack Price, straight away, what are your thoughts ahead of the new season?
Well, obviously, I think it's glad to be back. I think we've had a long, since November, it's felt like a long time since an F1 race has actually been done, especially considering how 2017 finished a bit boring in Abu Dhabi. I remember we were both like texting each other going, not a lot's really happening in this last race. So hopefully Melbourne starts off well and, we get a spark because a lot of people are talking how this is going to be a fantastic new season. But I hope so because we don't want it being as boring maybe as it has been the last few years.
Of course, you mentioned Abu Dhabi. I was ill that day, I remember, and I actually felt better being ill than watching that final Grand Prix. I know we're promoting F1 as a podcast, and it's not a good start. I do apologise to those fans out there, but it really... that race will be forgotten for forever. Yeah. That is for sure. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to preview the season, obviously. The first Grand Prix is in Australia, as it always is, in Melbourne Park. But what we'll also, of course, do is go through each team so that we make sure each team is talked about. But before we do all that, let's talk about what is the biggest story of F1 at the moment, and it's something that's new to it this year, and that is the new feature on the cockpit of the car, and that is the halo. Of course, when you think of halos, you think angels and great things can happen, miracles can happen with an angel with a halo flashing on top of their. Or you're thinking of the video game where you're blasting aliens in space. Can't beat that. But it's not one of those halos that's getting exactly the best reviews, is it? I mean, okay, it's safety. That's what F1 is more these days. We have to accept that. Ayrton Senna's death, I think, started the whole safety in F1. Jules Bianchi's another example. If anything, it's good for safety, Jack, but in my eyes, it just makes the car even uglier.
Yeah, I mean, we all know why it's there, like you said, and we have to, as a fan, accept it. I don't think anybody really likes it, but I have to say that after seeing the new designs and the new liveries on the cars, I think the designers have integrated it well. I mean, they could have just literally just stuck it on top of the car and put super glue on it, you know. They could have just put it on like that, but they've really worked on the design. Obviously, the aerodynamics, it's a new thing for them this year to still try and get the best airflow on the car. So I think the designers have integrated it well into the new designs for this year. But yeah, it looks a bit ugly. But the drivers said that they can still see as well as they could last season, so it's not really an effect for them. The only thing that is that a couple of drivers have said it's quite difficult and it takes longer to get out. So if there's an accident and you need to get out the car quickly, it does take a couple more seconds longer than it would not having it in there. So I think that's the only thing that the drivers have got to adjust to. But I think a few races in, the fans will forget it's on there.
It's funny though, because none of the drivers were behind it at all. The idea, were they? They have their own drivers board, don't they? Basically, and they all agreed that they didn't want it.
Well, they all
that's not listening to the drivers, surely.
No, well, they all want to be in this sport because it's open cockpit racing.
Yeah,
if they didn't want to do that, they'd be in touring car.
Yeah, touring cars. Yeah.
But you know that like you said, the last major accidents that have happened in F1. They need to sort of look at more of a safety because they don't want something happening like that again. It shouldn't really in 2018, but they don't want the excuse that this could have prevented it. And they've seen some studies that suggest that this can help certain accidents. So it's like, well, yeah, they've sort of got to do it, and maybe the drivers don't want it, but if they can still see just as well as they could, in an open cockpit, then I suppose they'll just have to live with it. And like I said, like the fans, after a couple of races, they won't even know it's there.
Well, let's hear what Toto Wolff had to say. Of course, the man in charge of Mercedes, and obviously a very a happy man over the last 4 years of F1. This is what he had to say about the Halo. It's not good reviews. I'll say that from the man himself. Here it is.
Not impressed with the whole thing. And if you give me a chainsaw, I would take it off. I think we need to look after the driver's safety, but what we have implemented is aesthetically not appealing, and we need to really tackle that and come up with a solution that simply looks better. It's a massive weight on the top of the car. You screw up the center of gravity massively with that thing. And as much as it's impressive to look at the statistic that you could put a bus on top, this is a Formula One car.
Of course, that was Toto Wolff there, giving it a lot of slating, and sadly he's going to have to go with it. Okay, so that's the Halo talked about. I don't want to talk about it for that much because we have to accept it as fans. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. The only thing I'm going to miss is not being able to actually see the driver that clear going down the straight, especially under the lights of Singapore, which is a beautiful view from any camera that you see during the race. But let's talk about the teams. Now, we're going to do it in the order of the Constructors' Championship. So apologies to Sauber for putting you last, but that's what happens when you don't get any points. Did they get any points? I don't think they did.
I don't think they did.
I should check. No, they got 5. What am I
Oh
saying?
my goodness.
Oh my, well
We're
done.
both
Yeah, well
wrong.
done, yeah.
Good start.
Good prep, isn't it? But obviously, we'll start with Mercedes. 4 World Championships, 4 Constructors' Championships. I'm sure Lewis Hamilton wished it was 4 out of 4 World Championships instead of the one he lost to Nico Rosberg in 2016. Surely they're the favourites again. What's the stat you've got about how many laps they did in testing?
Well, I think it's right. It's either 1,030 or 1,040 laps that they completed throughout the whole of testing. And when you think that winter testing the first week was sort of hampered by the snow and all the horrible weather we had in the first week there, that's credit to them. And I think that there was also a stat that both drivers in one day did 100 laps each, so it was over 200 laps, which I don't think has been done before. So it just shows that Mercedes power unit is still the best on the grid. So a lot of people say it's going to be tough competition this year. I sort of see it, maybe with Ferrari, but they dropped off the boil last year, so we're hoping that they don't do that this year. We're not sure about Red Bull because they've sort of been under the radar, but you still think, obviously, it's Mercedes to be going for that next Constructors and probable Drivers' Championship as well.
Is Lewis Hamilton the favourite then for the World Championship?
I think so. His main rival's obviously going to be Vettel, but like we said, we're not sure on Ferrari. But like I've said previously, this is Bottas's year. He's had a year now. I saw an interview with him yesterday on the F1 website, and he said that this testing's been easier for him because he's already known the team, he knows everything about the team, and it was a lot easier to sort of get what he wanted out of this testing. So this is a big season for him because it is Mercedes. He should be fighting Lewis Hamilton now. But what I want to know from you as well is that last season in Hungary, they both did a driver's swap right at the end.
Yes, yeah.
If both of them are fighting against Ferrari or Red Bull, like a proper battle, will they be doing that?
I think it's one of those. We'll find out when it happens, but I don't think so. Lewis Hamilton's not. He's not that giving, is he? That's what makes him a world champion, isn't it? He no matter who it is next to him, he looks at them as not enemies but rivals, basically saying you're threatening my world championship number 5, you could say. But I think it depends, doesn't it? If Ferrari and Red Bull are a lot closer this year than last year, then I think they can't take any risks. Well, no, sorry. This is F1. What I'm saying, F1, you take risks, but I mean, like, if you've got the drivers in a good position already, why swap it? Because at the end of the day, Valtteri Bottas has got a point to prove, in my eyes. I think if he wants to do it, this has got to be the year to beat Hamilton. And I think Valtteri Bottas has got to look back in 2016 and look at how Nico Rosberg did it, because that might be the best way to beat him, which is to obviously beat him in the races, but to just basically get enough points and hope. I mean, this is bad me saying this, but do you think he might have to hope that his car's better than Hamilton?
Yeah, I do think that Hamilton is a better driver than Valtteri Bottas, but I don't think he's not an average driver. He has great quality. I mean, he's a Finn to start with, and all Finnish drivers are fantastic. But I think he has got everything he needs. He's got a good car. He is good as a driver. I do think he needs to start pushing Hamilton. He got 3 wins last year, which first season at Mercedes. But he needs to show this season that he is fighting, and maybe as well as Vettel, Bottas needs to be in the mix as well. He needs to prove that. Well,
let's have a quick listen to the interview of Lewis Hamilton during testing, which of course he certainly wanted to get back into this new season, instead of all this pre-season rubbish, you could say, this is what he had to say.
I was really happy to get out today, to be honest. I'm not one to no, I don't like testing, but today I actually was really keen to get out. Obviously because we haven't had many laps, so it was great to get out and get a feel for the tires and the warm-up process, and to try and stretch the legs a little bit on this new car, and so far it's positive. The track is quicker than it was in the past, much smoother, a lot more grip, and so it's difficult to say whether the car's that much better, or if it's partly, how much of that's the track and how much is that the grip and how much is that the tires. So over the next days, I guess next week we'll get a better understanding. And again, I've only done like 50 laps today, so 50, 60 laps. So it's not the best of readings, but it was positive. Had no mistakes and got straight to it quite quickly. It definitely does feel like a better car from compared to last year's car, so that's a positive. In these test days, you don't look at other teams generally. You're just focusing on getting through the run plan, keeping the car on track, learning as much as you can, giving positive feedback and constructive feedback, so that the guys back at the factory hearing everything you say, so they can be working on everything. And I think I don't know what they've been doing. I've seen a couple of them on track. I've not even really seen their livery. Just know that it's red. I got back in the car just now, and I was straight on it in the first within the first 10 laps. So I'm quite happy and quite comfortable already. So now it's just about learning about the new tools that I have, the new characteristics of the car, and how to utilize them and exploit them, and implement different driving techniques to maneuver around whatever issues you might have. We could go to Melbourne now and just go for it. I want to race, to be honest. Testing, as I said, it's kind of, there's no competition, so that's what I miss. When you have that long break, you just can't wait to get back into that competitive atmosphere that is Formula One. It's there's nothing quite like it. So when you come to testing, it's fun for the first half a day to get in the car, and then afterwards you kind of let's go. Hopefully next week we'll get plenty of running. I mean, ultimately this week there was questions of whether or not we should have been in Bahrain, where firstly the weather's always good there, and you can test all day long, so you can get a lot of testing done because it obviously goes into the evening. But I like being here in Europe and in Barcelona. It's a beautiful city, so hopefully the good weather comes next week.
Lewis Hamilton there. He's just eager to get going for the new season. We must move on, though. We go on to our next team now, and that is Ferrari. Now, of course, they came second last year. They were rivals to Mercedes pretty much until Singapore, wasn't it? Where, it was Vettel who went right into Raikkonen. They both went out. Points not great for the constructors. No points there. But also, Hamilton was over nearly 20, I think it was nearly 30 points ahead after that race. And that's when the season happened for Hamilton, after all those Vettel wins in the first half of the season. So if anything, Ferrari have got to get themselves going straight away. Otherwise, Mercedes will be in a one-horse race.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Is that, Mercedes are going to be so dominant that the other rivals have to get out of the blocks straight away, and that same goes for Red Bull as well. But I think Ferrari need to make sure that they are all together in this, and I know that they probably are but that Singapore race where it looked like the whole team just went, Kimi and Vettel, crashing into each other, both scared of Verstappen, and Vettel trying to cut him off, and that's what happens. And the team just looked like it imploded from that moment. And was it Japan where they had one spark plug issue that caused Vettel to go out of the race?
Yes,
So they had they were unlucky in some stages, but they need to make sure that when they're on form, that they really do something about it. Because if Mercedes, like you said, get 30 points clear or something, or Hamilton and Bottas go far away, then we're going to look like another boring season, and we don't want that. Ferrari don't want that. Yeah, and every fan doesn't want that. We want a good season with battles.
Let's talk about Kimi Raikkonen. Now, I must admit, I was a bit surprised he got given another season. Mm-hmm. I think the last half of 2017 wasn't exactly great for Kimi Raikkonen. Okay, maybe because Ferrari had nothing really to fight for at the end because of all the problems they had in Malaysia and Singapore. But I feel this is Do you think this could be Kimi Räikkönen's last season in F1?
Quite possibly. I think he's sort of lost. I don't want to say he's lost interest, but he sort of reminds me of how Jenson Button was in his last couple of seasons. You know, he's there.
Wanted to leave.
Yeah, once he gets in the car, he's fine. But you know, when he's doing all the pre-match or pre-race or post-race interviews and whatever, he's not really interested. But he's been like that throughout his career. Really, he's just not interested. Once he gets in the car, he's there. But I sort of think for Ferrari, he's not really a competitor to Vettel. You know that Vettel's first driver in that team. You know, let's not go around it. But he's still a big name. So still having Vettel and Raikkonen in your team is still big for sponsors, for fans. Every fan loves Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah,
he's now got Instagram, which makes everybody's like, whoa, what?
I remember when it was launched and everyone was just basically saying on Twitter, oh God, Kimi Räikkönen's got Instagram.
Yeah, it's like,
great.
How's that possible? Follow, you know, everybody's followed him. So he's still a big driver in the sport. And actually during testing this year, he didn't actually do too bad. He was quite up there with Vettel. So maybe if he starts well this season, that might actually give him the confidence to really push this season. He's still a good driver, but I can see maybe Ferrari switching up, or maybe Kimi just saying, you know, I've had a good run and you know, I'm happy to step aside now. But we'll see.
Of course, you better make sure you leave him alone as well when he's racing, because you know what he's like on the team radio. Quickly mention Vettel. What happens to him this year if he doesn't get that World Championship? Because he's been at Ferrari now since, well, this will be his 4th season with Ferrari after he joined in 2015. I mean, okay, it took Michael Schumacher some time when he was at Ferrari to get his first, well, not his first World Championship, but his first World Championship in the red car. Would there be pressure on him at all this season if he doesn't perform better than last year?
Maybe. I think he needs to iron out the sort of anger issues he had in the last season. I mean, hitting Hamilton in was it?
Oh, Azerbaijan. Yeah.
Well, not hitting, crashing. I didn't actually punch him. I just want to point that out. But yeah, that fiasco, and obviously Singapore. You know, he did have a couple of anger issues, so we say, last season. So he needs to iron that out, and he just needs to be like a bit like Hamilton, should I say, in the fact that he just gets on with it and races no matter what. Once he gets in the car, you know, that's it. He's racing, and I think he needs to do a bit more of that this year. But I still think he knows he can win in that car. I still think he wants to win. But the problem is that if he decides to leave, where's he going to go?
Well, that's a good point, because it's not really Red Bull. That'd be a bit awkward, but we know they're more of an academy team, aren't they? They don't bring in drivers from another
would Mercedes want him and Hamilton in the same team?
No,
it would be a bit like Rosberg,
no.
Hamilton all over again.
Well, I think that's why Alonso and Raikkonen Alonso and Vettel never happened at Ferrari, because both of them won a world championship. They know they're capable. I mean, as you mentioned, Raikkonen is capable, but he's happy to settle the score with maybe just the one world championship back in 2007. We move on to Red Bull, who finished 3rd. Actually, sorry, before we move on to Red Bull, are Ferrari going to finish 2nd this year in the Constructors' Championship?
Ferrari fans, I don't want to hurt you, but I think they might finish 3rd this season.
3rd? Ooh, right, okay. Right, well, anyway, we'll find out who'll come 2nd. Is it going to be this team now? Red Bull. Now, of course, they've got Aston Martin as their main sponsorship. Now, I mean, money-wise, that's cool. You know, I'm one of those fans who thinks, you know, it's great for F1. We don't get any money out of it, so, you know, you pick who you want. But, you know, it's a fancy car. It's British as well. But, yeah, again, Red Bull are in Milton Keynes, so, of course, they were going to go for them. Better than Infinity. Who talks about Infinity cars?
Yeah.
It's not very Infinity, is it? Maybe a definitive or something like that. Ignore me. But, you know, I'm really excited for Red Bull, because I feel like this could be where we see a clash between Ricciardo and Verstappen. Even if it was just Red Bull going for the World Championship, could you imagine what them two will be like? They're good friends now.
Yeah.
They do all these videos behind the scenes for Instagram. It's great for fans. I love what Red Bull produce, but I feel like it could be different this year, where the producer goes, so we do a trip to Chinatown, you know, for the Shanghai Grand Prix, and they'll all just be like, yeah, I'm not going if he's going.
Yeah.
What do you think this could be like then for Verstappen and Ricciardo?
Yeah, this is where I think these will be 2nd place in the constructors.
Here we go then.
Can I also point out that I preferred the first testing in Silverstone's livery car. Did you see the?
I did.
Did you see the livery?
It didn't
looks
even
so
make
much.
it.
I know it looks so much better, and then they're like, "Oh, we're just gonna go back to the normal one." It's like, oh, no. But
It's called branding, Jack. We don't do that.
so disappointing. But yeah, this is where I think this is a big season for Red Bull. I mean, obviously they've still got the same engine, and they just changed it to Aston Martin with being the main sponsor. But this is the team that has the two best young drivers. I think obviously Ricciardo is not as young as Verstappen anymore, but this is the team where I think both drivers are counted as first team, or number one, should I say. The others, that there's first and second drivers. This is the team that are both fighting for that first driver position. And I think, like you said, what was it, Hungary last year, where Verstappen hit Ricciardo, and it got a little bit edgy there in a couple of races.
But Verstappen had a poor first half to the season, didn't he? You forget that now because of the 2 wins he got. In the other half of the season.
Yeah, there's a lot of reliability issues as well that Red Bull had, so they need to make sure that that's a little better this season. They blamed Renault for it, but I'm not sure Renault could be blamed for every single fault that they had in the season.
I hope not, as a McLaren fan.
But yeah, this is the season. Both of them are 2 big drivers, and both of them want to win the World Championship this season. So I hope that Red Bull give them a good car, because you want to see them fighting Hamilton, Vettel at the top. Obviously, Verstappen and Ricciardo can do that, even with a poor car like last season, but you want to see him with a big car.
I honestly think Red Bull could finish second as well. I might have to agree with you. I think for F1 we want that.
Yeah. Would Ferrari finish third for you?
I can't see anybody else getting third, can you? I think the top 3 is going to be between Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull. It just all depends how far Mercedes get. I mean, you never know. You just never know in any sport. Mercedes might finish second, but I can't see it happening. Anyway, we must move on. Red Bull, though, that's going to be exciting. Actually, before we move on, Max Verstappen, obviously he's signed a contract to stay on till at least 2020 or 2021. That's not going to last, surely. Not if Red Bull can't produce a winning car.
Well, they've signed him down, but it's Ricciardo as well. He hasn't done a deal, so by the end of this season, he could be gone. He can go wherever he wants.
I think he'll be at Ferrari,
Well, he said that the contracts that they had stalled over the winter, and they won't be back till about April, May. So it'll be interesting, because I think he's waiting to see how the car produces for the first few months of the season. And if he thinks it's bad, like you said, if Raikkonen decides to move aside, Ricciardo could go to Ferrari, and again, that could be interesting, because Ricciardo pushed Vettel in his last few seasons at Red Bull. So that would be quite a tasty team as well. But like you said, Verstappen, he's a young driver that wants to win the World Championship now.
Yeah.
And they need to give him a car that does that.
So
he could be off somewhere as well. Could be at Mercedes if Bottas doesn't do it. I mean, what a lineup that would be.
Pink is the future, according to Force India. I'm not saying that's a bad colour. It's a great colour. And it worked last season for their car. They're going with it again this season. Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon. Now, that's another rivalry there, isn't it? Just in itself. Perez had to do it in the final race in Abu Dhabi to stay on top of him in the Drivers' Championship, which is important because, you've got Esteban Ocon in his first season. For someone who's been at Force India for a few years now, you don't want a new teammate to come in, obviously, but this season could be very interesting because I think Ocon's a great driver, but so is Perez. So, what do you think? I mean, can Force India get fourth again? Because that was an incredible achievement.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely got the whole package as a team to do that. 2 great drivers, a really good team base, and a good car. If it produces like it did last season, testing showing that it can do well in hopefully this season. And I mean, we were talking about Ricciardo and Verstappen's little rivalry last year, but can we just say that this rivalry of Perez and Ocon really took hold? I mean, I think Belgium was quite was quite tasty.
How on earth no one? Well, there was no. What Perez had to go out, didn't he?
Yeah.
But how they both didn't go, I'm very surprised by that.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple of comments made on social media by a couple of the drivers as well. So I think that they had a firm telling off by the team, and they had to make sure they were kind to each other.
They were saying these cars are expensive.
Yeah, you're paying for the next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a team that can fight for the fourth, and we're going to keep saying this throughout the whole podcast of every episode that we do. We want to see every team fighting with each other, like proper racing. We don't want to see them like, oh, we're getting lapped 4 times by the top guys, because it's not fun. So I think if Force India produced like they did last season, they could fight for 4th, and we want to see that. We want to see like 6 teams fighting for 4th. Or we want to see that. Moving
on to the next one, and that is, I think it's Williams in the Constructors' Championship. I must double check. Yep, it is Williams. And Williams, we've just found out recently that Martini will not be their sponsors as of next year. I know they've got them this year, but obviously it's a bit of a younger lineup compared to Felipe Massa. He put on the average a bit higher than it should be, probably. Massa's gone. Sad to see him go. He had to move on, I think. Williams had to move on. We got Lance Stroll, and he'll be the number 1 driver in my eyes, the priority. But we've also got Sergei Sorokin. Now, we all remember him a few years ago, the young Russian who was 17, I think. Yeah. And he nearly became the youngest driver to enter before Max Verstappen came onto the circuit. Obviously, that never happened for Sergei at the end. He's taken a few years away from it. He's back. Robert Kubica's a reserve driver. I mean, we were hoping, I mean, I was at least, we were hoping Kubica was going to make it as the main driver's lineup, but reserve driver, I guess, is understandable when you need to give someone like Sergei Sorokin an opportunity that he's worked so hard for.
Yeah, but interestingly, Robert Kubica was faster than both drivers throughout the whole of testing.
It says it all, doesn't it?
You know, so and a lot of people were still talking to Kubica about, can he deal with full race conditions? And he was sort of like, no, I've had enough of this now. You know, he must have done like 60 laps per, every day he was out testing. So it's like, I can do it. So, stop talking, because it must be annoying when people keep talking about, can you deal with a whole a race, a whole 60 laps? But he can, and he was faster than both Williams drivers. So, that would be interesting, whether 6 months into the season, whether they go, oh, I've had enough, bring Kubica in. That would be something to spice it up, because Martini leaving is probably down to the fact that both of them are too young for them to be sponsors, because Massa was all right because it sort of balanced it out, but they're too young. I think that was one of the clauses, that they needed an older driver for Martini to be in there. So they've lost the big sponsor for their team because they picked 2 young drivers. Lance Stroll has to do something this season, average last season. He needs to prove a point, and Sergei Sorokin has this year, so he can do okay. He has the year buffer like Lance Stroll did last season, but in a car like Williams, who's been poor the last couple of seasons, shall we say, but the whole team needs to push up there, and they need to fight for that 4th place, because if they don't, Force India are going to walk it, really.
Should they have picked Robert Kubica?
Yeah, I think so.
As their main driver, yeah.
I think so, yeah. I think Sergei Sorokin
as a reserve driver
can do it, but I think he would have been good to start him in as a reserve driver, and you need that experience. And I think if they brought him in, Martini might have stayed.
I mean, no disrespect to Sorokin. If it does get desperate, they can swap. But obviously for Sergei Sorokin's confidence, it'll just go down the tube, won't it? Let's be honest. It's not going to help any young driver out thinking that this is meant to be their career. Anyway, that's Williams. And do you think they'll just be below Force India then?
Yeah, I don't think they'll beat Force India unless they come in with a full packaged car, and I don't think they will. Force India will probably beat them, but we've also got to talk about McLaren and where they're going to be.
Oh dear. Sorry. Renault.
Yes.
Nico Hülkenberg and Carlos Sainz. I think these could be dark horses. Not for the title, obviously, to be quite higher up than 6 they were last season. That's understandable, I think. But
it's down to Julian Palmer,
surely,
really, isn't it?
Oh God, he's now on BBC Radio 5 Live, so that means no one will listen to that, and they will go elsewhere, maybe
listen
NBC.
Here.
Listen here instead. We'll do it live somewhere if we can afford it. But surely their aim is to at least go ahead of Williams and get 5th.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about Red Bull probably being the strongest lineup. I think that these two are probably the second strongest as a team. Nico Hülkenberg and Carlos Sainz. I mean, Carlos Sainz came in after Singapore. I think was it after Singapore?
You're right, yeah.
And he literally did so much of a better job in that car than Julian Palmer did.
I think it was Japan, but go on.
Japan. And he literally did a better job than Julian Palmer did in the whole season.
Well, 2 years.
Which is annoying because as a British driver, you want them to do well. But Carlos Sainz came in and he literally just improved the whole team. I think the whole team lifted
But that's F1 though, isn't it? You haven't got the time. You've got to prove yourself. It's one of those sports where it's an it's a team sport, but it's individual anyway, isn't it? Because they've got the stats, they've got the data and everything. These people back in the garage, and they can tell you you're underperforming straight away.
I think as soon as he spun off in Hungary, when he was in chances of having a couple of points, I think Julian Palmer he spun off out of his own accord. Nothing went wrong with the car. I think that they looked at that now and they went, "Yeah, we need to make a change."
Yeah. And there's so much money in it as well. There's no excuse, is there?
Yeah, it's so many thousands for each place, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, they need the money, Renault. So you could see the change coming, and it's a better change for it. I think that they will do better. The car looks good this season. It looks a nice looking car. And let's hope that they do it, because like we keep saying, we want a battle, especially for that 4th place, because there's a lot of teams there.
Absolutely. On to Toro Rosso. We'll be quick with these ones. Pierre Gasly and Brendan Hartley. I mean, Toro Rosso are always the academy team as Red Bulls. We all know they like to have a few moments here and there. Carlos Sainz, when he was at Toro Rosso, got 4th in Singapore, which was a great achievement. I mean, that's my favorite teammate of the season. Vamos, whatever it was. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was so good. But I mean, Brendan Hartley's finally got a full season of F1 now after he came in late last year. It's a dream come true.
Yeah, and can I say that Toro Rosso Honda are looking very good. The reliability looks fantastic. I mean, they did so well in testing. There was hardly any problems. And they did so many laps in that Honda power unit, which is just amazing. And I think Honda said that they've got more creativity now, which surely says that McLaren didn't give them any at all.
No.
Which means that they now can do whatever they want. And I think that Honda are actually going to show what their power unit can do this year. And hopefully they do quite well, because, again, there's 2 good drivers there. 2, I'd say young drivers, but Pierre Gasly is obviously the younger one. Brendan Hartley, he's got his season, like you said, and I think both of them will relish it.
And, well, there was those funny memes and all that on Instagram, etc., from F1 pages of like the McLaren lot looking at the Toro Rosso, just thinking, what happened?
Yeah.
It was like it cheated. It was like a relationship. It cheated on McLaren and went to Toro Rosso and gave it the pleasure it was paying for.
They were looking at it like Honda had put a massive turbo in it that just went like 5 seconds quicker, and they're like, oh. how is this? How is this fair?
It took us 3 years and we got nowhere.
Yeah. Terrible.
Okay, on to Haas. Now, this one's a bit interesting because even Twitter was going mad about it on their typical trends, where Haas could be an underdog for a big finish this year. We've got Romain Grosjean. I think you need a better driver than that, no offense.
Yeah.
And Kevin Magnussen. I think it's an exciting team because they have come into F1 knowing it's not like HRT or catering where if you just put the money in, it'll work out. No, they've actually gone in there with a plan and think, we want to be here for a long time. Yeah. We're American, which, let's be honest, some could laugh at that in my eyes. But, F1 is now owned by a Liberty Media team that is from America. So a big involvement for America, including the US Grand Prix, and having a team as well. And I'm quite excited to see how they do. Yeah. Shame about the drivers, though.
I'm going to go out and say that this is probably the worst driver lineup on the grid.
It's not exciting.
I mean, Kevin Magnussen is just Mr. Angry, isn't he? He just crashes everybody out.
No one likes him either.
Nobody does like him, on the grid. So, that's interesting. And Romain Grosjean, he's had a few years to prove himself, got that move to Haas, and hasn't really done enough. He's probably the lowest first driver, because I think that he is number 1 driver. He's the lowest number 1 driver on the grid. I just don't see, wow, I don't, he doesn't amaze me. But that car has got the potential to make them two look good. Yeah. Like really good. So hopefully for them that they do something. And I think, like you said, they had a plan when they first came into F1, and so far it's working for them. So hopefully for them that they do something this year.
Well, we'll find out. McLaren now, McLaren Renault, if you really want to call it that. I don't like the last word. No. I got nothing wrong with Renault. My mum had one, but that was a slow car. I'm not saying they're going to be rubbish, but the testing hasn't exactly been great, has it? I mean, I remember checking the live commentaries you see online, and there was straight away, when you get a preview of a picture before you can find out. And it was just Alonso looking at his car being taken away on the side of the track, and that straight away just said to me, "It's happening again, isn't it? It's not Honda, it's not Mercedes that they had before. in my eyes, it's the team.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I think they had more time sitting watching their car than they actually did driving it.
They're on holiday in Barcelona,
Yeah.
weren't they?
But no, I mean, as a McLaren fan, it really hurts because when you come into this testing, you were like, right, here we go,
Yeah.
new season,
Yeah.
new engine, let's do this. And it's like first day, it stopped on track. Oh, not again.
And bless Zach Brown, because he's proper passionate about.
Yeah.
He wants them to be back into winning ways. He said back in January. As you say, he's waking up and then he probably just wished he went back to bed.
I know it's really annoying, but hopefully they get all the little gremlins out of the way in testing, and hopefully when the season starts, because when you look at it, it's the same Renault engine that Renault obviously have and Red Bull. So if they can do something, then hopefully the engine package that McLaren have can do the same, because that's what you're hoping for. But if it doesn't, you've got to look at how the team's shaping up their car, because if they're not as good as Red Bull, then it's obviously the McLaren side of the car building that's the error. And if it doesn't go well this season, Fernando Alonso's gone.
Well, I was just going to ask you about Fernando Alonso. He's doing other things as well, isn't he?
Le Mans this season.
Le Mans. What's the other thing he's doing? He's
doing a couple of other...
he's doing a season in something else, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's doing it in the season that Le Mans in. And I can't remember what the thing is. He's not doing Indy this season. I think he might be doing that next season.
Yeah. He did something even in January, didn't he, with the other drivers, including Lando Norris.
Yeah. Oh, what was that? Oh, no.
Oh, I'm forgetting everything now.
Oh, no. Yeah. I can't remember what it is, but it was big in America, wasn't it?
Yeah. I actually went to the Autosport show, and their car was there where it had the names on their flags on the...
Daytona.
Yeah, there we go. He got it. He got high five to that.
Yeah,
Hey,
Daytona. 24
I
hours.
got it.
24 hours.
But yeah, it's just one of those, isn't it, where Alonso's got to at that point he must have it in his head that like this is it. This year's got to happen, or I move on from F1 for good, or I go to another team. But I just don't think there's going to be options there for him.
No.
Because, as you say, Ferrari aren't going to want him. If Vettel stays, Hamilton at Mercedes, that's not going to work out.
Red Bull won't want him.
No. It's a shame, isn't it? But I said to you in a text the other day, Braun GP, they turned up to testing, did nothing. And then they ended up being the best car on the grid in 2009.
It's the best looking car as well, in McLaren's.
It is. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? Orange. I'm so glad they went with those colours, because that was a rumour. I think everyone deep down knew it was going to happen, but, sometimes you could get a colour like green and think, no, we're not going with the colours of Jaguar. That didn't work.
That was a good-looking car, though.
It didn't work, though. It was all about class, just like any Jaguar car, just not fast. Anyway, quickly, before we talk about our last team, this is what Alonso had to say during testing.
It felt great. I think, the engine, especially the Renault guys, normally they put a lot of input on the drivability side, on the performance side, and I know 80% of the guys in the garage from the past as well. So, it was a great day on that sense. The car is very early to say, because, we need to keep working a little bit and keep knowing in which direction on the setup we need to go this year. So far so good, but, a lot more.
So that was Fernando Alonso there. Anyway, we must move on to the last team, and that is Sauber. Now, not the greatest of seasons. Amazingly, they have kept Marcus Ericsson. I didn't think he was going to be there for another 12 months, to be honest with you. And we've also got Charles Leclerc, who is the new driver with Marcus Ericsson. So that was goodbye to Pascal Wehrlein, at least for now. What do you think of Sauber? What do you know about them this year? Do you think they could be a bit more serious? Let's not forget, it's an Alfa Romeo.
And it looks
Sauber,
good.
And it looks beautiful. Red and white. It really does work. Is it going to be more than that, though, this whole Alfa Romeo thing? Is it actually going to be a good thing?
Well, it's not, as much as Alfa Romeos look good, it's not the best for reliability. I mean, I know Alfa Romeo aren't building
My
the
brother
car.
had an Alfa Romeo. He knows.
The Alfa Romeos are nice, but they don't work very well. No. But I don't think that they're actually using parts from Alfa Romeo. Are they still with Ferrari?
I think they're still with Ferrari.
Because I think Alfa and Ferrari work together as well, don't they?
You always see on the board, don't you?
Yeah, so I still think that they'll do okay. They'll do better than last season. Sorry, I mean we didn't even think they had 5 points last season, so I think that they'll do better. I probably would have kept Pascal Wehrlein over Marcus Ericsson, but I'm not sure whether there was a contract thing or what was going on, and whether Marcus Ericsson brings in more money, which is probably the
maybe
case.
Wehrlein wasn't happy with the deal.
Yeah, maybe. But I think Leclerc is a great replacement. I think he's a good young driver, and he again has the potential. And I think it's good that there's so many young drivers on the grid this season, because we like to see new talent and let's see what they can do. And yeah, so I think as a team they'll be stronger, but I think their weak link won't be reliability. I think it might be Marcus Ericsson, which is harsh on him, but I think he's had a couple of years. Yeah, he's had a rubbish car since he's been in F1. So hopefully if it's a better car this season, he might improve as a driver and show us what he can do. But I haven't seen a lot from him. So
are they going to get Pole Position Podcast's wooden spoon? Which, by the way, I'll get the address of Sauber and I will send it in the post if they come last.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know this season who's going to get that. I think it's going to be tough, because you would think Sauber with what happened last season, but I don't know. I don't want to say McLaren.
Oh no!
Do you know the thing?
You know what? Why do I worry if they're still bottom in the summer?
Yeah,
McLaren. I say still. It hasn't even started yet. It's that bad. That's how much my confidence is. Will Alonso go in the summer?
Possibly.
Why stay?
Possibly.
But yeah, again, he's got those other things to do with McLaren. But
he's like Lando,
take my seat. Take my seat.
I don't want
take my seat. Oh, you're gonna have to climb over it now. You can't just jump in. It's got a halo there.
I don't know who's gonna be the bottom this season. It's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be really tough.
That's what I want to see. I want us to not know what's gonna happen. But yeah. Please, McLaren. Please don't do it to us.
Fingers
don't
crossed.
Do it to us.
Hashtag save McLaren. Zach Brown. please. We're not above begging.
But who do you think is going to win first race of the season then?
All right. So of course we will have an upcoming video on our YouTube channel. Make sure you do subscribe. And every race we will do a quick 3-minute preview of each Grand Prix. And of course the first one is in Melbourne for Australia. Sebastian Vettel won there last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping, you know what, I'm going to say this as a fan. I'm hoping anyone but Mercedes, just to kind of get it going, I'm not saying if Mercedes win the first race, that's it. But that straight away to me says this isn't going to help at all for the rest of the season. But 21 races, that's a long time. And we don't end the season until the end of November.
France as well this season.
France as well in the summer,
There's another new one as well.
It's not exactly the most exciting circuit.
No.
If you know what I mean.
But it's a good name to have on the grid, isn't it?
It's good to have France, yeah. I think, especially British fans as well. It's an easy trip.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I'm waiting until they have an African Grand Prix. I think we need one. Just because it needs to advertise it again. But anyway, enough of that. We've come to the end. Jack Price, who is going to win the Constructors and the World Championship this year? You've probably already said it, but let's get it finalised.
I'm going to go with, obviously, Mercedes to win the Constructors. And I want to say Valtteri Bottas to win the Drivers.
Whoa.
But my head's going to go Lewis Hamilton
So
for
your
5.
heart's going for Bottas. Wow, who'd have thought a Brit back in a finish? But
it's because we don't like Hamilton. Let's be fair.
Let's be honest, we don't. But can he finish first in the World Championship? That was terrible. But that's what you're going to get all season here on the Pole Position Podcast. Thank you very much for listening and watching. And make sure that you do subscribe onto our YouTube channel and share this video. And of course, we will keep going. We'll be doing it every week to review and probably quickly preview. But remember, catch our preview of the Australian Grand Prix on our YouTube channel. And make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe for more. Anyway, thank you very much, Jack Price, for your time. I've been Jamie Davis, and it is goodbye.